I have nearly undeniable proof that Israeli Mossad assassinated Charlie Kirk. Let's get straight into it. So to simplify this for you guys, I'm basically going to be breaking this down into 3 simple sections, which is the context, content, and conclusion. The context is everything before the event, right? Before the initial assassination happens. The content is everything during the event, how it happens, who did it, why it happened, that sort of thing. The conclusion is essentially just who did it, why, this, that, you can understand, right? And by the way, if you want this doc, you can go ahead, download it, and the link will be in the description below if you want to download it, take a look at it, comment on it, make notes, anything I might have missed, anything like that, feel free. It's completely free. I'm not going to charge you guys anything that would be getting recorded. I'm going to try to not edit this as much as I can so you guys can get the full big picture, so I apologize beforehand if this video seems boring or too slow paced, but this is going to be raw and I really just want to give you the full raw breakdown. So if this is the kind of video you want to see, then go ahead, thug it out. Otherwise, if your brain is too rotted and you can't handle watching something for more than 10 minutes, then click off the video because this video is not for you. You want quick answers, I guess you can skip to the end, otherwise whatever. So for those of you who have decided to stick around because you're actually a smart person, let's get straight into this. I don't want to waste any of your time. This is extremely important. This is long overdue. The truth is more important than anything else, okay? So we're going to begin with the context, obviously. When you're dealing with any major event, you really want to look deeper and far, far, far below the surface beyond just this happened. Maybe this is why, maybe that's why. If you follow the mainstream media and big news corporation outlets, the narrative or whatever, everyone is saying, oh, it's a crazy liberal, it's a crazy liberal, it was a crazy liberal. You have to look beneath the surface, okay? There's a lot of suspicious things going on, so that's what we're going to be looking at before, during, and even after. You can see everything's leading up to it, and it's so fucking weird. It's so bizarre, bro. Once you actually look at everything, you're like, what the hell? You can't look at this event the same at all. If you don't know the context or even the after and seeing everything this way, you're not going to understand it the way that I understand things or the way that intellectual people understand things. You have to be a free thinker, okay? Okay, so on Friday, August 7th, 1998, we have a film released. And this film is called Snake Eyes. And I'm not sure if you've heard of this recently or not. It was kind of going viral. I've never heard of this film up until now. And a lot of what you've seen, if you're a normal person, you'd probably, or the average person, you might consider this a conspiracy theory, but you're about to find out why maybe it's not such a conspiracy theory and why you shouldn't believe in coincidences. Because coincidences, personally, don't exist, okay? So we're first going to take a look at the initial assassination the assassination scene in this film so you can kind of understand where I'm coming from. But first, we're just going to Google the movie here, Snake Eyes. Comes up, you can see it has Nicolas Cage. You can get the premise here, just Google it yourself. You want to be a free thinker, you want to do things on your own, do your own research. I provide everything in here if you want to, but you can do extensive research if you would like to. It's what I recommend. Don't trust what anyone else says but yourself. Do your own research. I just came up with this conclusion because I did my own research. I looked at everything, and this is what I'm showing you guys, what you're supposed to do for yourself, right? But I'm just also giving you an example of what you should be doing, okay? So the assassination scene in the film here, if you guys want to go check it out, it's here on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, post. So there's the scene there that I'm referencing, so go watch it so you understand what I'm talking about. You can find the link directly in this doc. But so the film is called Snake Eyes. It's a movie starring Nicolas Cage. And basically what happens in this particular scene is there's a political figure named Charles Kirkland. Like Charlie Kirk. In fact, Charlie Kirk's real full first name is Charles. Charlie was like a nickname. Charles Kirkland, that's suspicious. You're like, oh, maybe weird coincidence, I don't know. But the character, Charles Kirkland, is killed via a gunshot wound to the left side of his neck. If you have seen the videos of Charlie Kirk getting assassinated, you will know exact same way he was assassinated. And the alleged killer in the film, or whoever would thought assassinated Charles Kirkland, the fall guy you could call him, his name was Lincoln Tyler, which correlates directly to who the FBI currently have under arrest is Tyler Robinson. More coincidences, right? Oh, that's weird. Okay, let's dig deeper. In Masonic tradition, so like Freemasonry, if you want to know what that is, just Google it. Again, do your own research so you can be a smart person. A Tyler is the officer who guards the door of the lodge with a drawn sword, ensuring only initiated brethren enter. He keeps out Cowans, I don't know if I butchered that, doesn't really matter, and eavesdroppers. And here are the Google search results for that. Again, if you want to look this up for yourself, there's the Google search results, so I'm not pulling this shit out of my ass. You can look it up and see the proof for yourself, what that means. Now, a Masonic Tyler is also known as the guard or executioner, right? And in the film, Lincoln Tyler, the fall guy, the alleged assassin, is known as the Atlantic City executioner. Kind of interesting. You might say, oh, that's just a little message for the film itself. Possibly. Although he also allegedly executed Charles Kirkland, or Charlie Kirk here, and who is, interestingly enough, also a Palestinian that mentioned an Israeli arms deal in the film. Nods to Israel. Interesting. Okay. Coincidence. Okay, we'll keep brushing it off for now. Now, the assassination in the film takes place on September 10th. The same day Charlie Kirk was killed this year in 2025, September 10th. Oh, coincidence. And the detective or police in the film was distracted by a blonde man. Same thing that happened during the event. We'll see later. There was some guy putting up a distraction to, keep the police's eyes on him while the real, it's just the whole thing. Now, the portion of the film was shot at Donald Trump's Taj Mahal Motel. Sorry if I butchered that, don't really care, you get the point. And casino in Atlantic City, New Jersey. What does that have to do anything? Well, Charlie Kirk has ties to Donald Trump. That's kind of weird, right? He's tied to the film, tied to Charlie Kirk, names, they're all correlated, assassination's correlated. It's getting really deeply suspicious here. It's like, what the fuck? Now, the character Gilbert Powell is based off of Donald Trump himself, and on the film's poster, Nicolas Cage is pictured making a specific hand signal or gesture, which matches the same signal and gesture that both Donald Trump and Charlie Kirk have been photographed doing, which is this, or this. I've also seen Andrew Tate do it, which is quite interesting. It's like some kind of Freemason, Masonic, Illuminati type thing. It's not this, it's this. They do it like this with their hands. You've probably seen plenty of politicians doing it. You're like, what the fuck is that? It's some weird shit. Now, on Thursday, October 12th of 2023, we have a Patrick Bet David podcast episode where Charlie Kirk features on it, okay? And I have the timestamp link to it again if you want to go check out what I'm mentioning there, what's relevant. You can go click the link there and find this doc in the description. But essentially, Charlie Kirk was featured on the show, as I mentioned, and he questions the validity of the official stories surrounding the Hamas attacks against Israel, or the Jews, right? Charlie Kirk raises questions towards Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on how and why he wants to handle the attacks in an ethnic cleanse matter, right? He used the term and then he immediately backpedals and says, but just to clarify, I love Israel, right? And by this time, he was beginning to kind of saying, like, we have to start asking questions here. This story doesn't seem right. Like, this is kind of unbelievable. I don't really believe this. This is very suspicious, right? About, like, Hamas killing. He's like, I've been to Israel, and, like, this doesn't really make sense. So he's posing questions, okay? Now, in late July or early August of this year, 2025, of course, the timeline isn't known exactly, but just around that time frame, around that range, because I wasn't there, of course, I don't know exactly, but this is what we've estimated by sources that were close to Charlie Kirk himself. And I also found from a website or an article right here by the Gray Zone. Here's the details. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu offers Charlie Kirk $150 million. This is alleged, but I believe it. This has happened many other times before, and people have claimed that it's happened when they get the call. So Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu offers Charlie Kirk $150 million to continue pushing his public support of Israel, drop the questions and criticisms, and infuse the Zionist bribe money within the Turning Point USA organization, right? So essentially, Israel, and especially Benjamin Netanyahu himself, starts to notice one of the biggest pro-Israel guys and is pushing all the Republicans and conservatives toward being pro-Israel is starting to ask questions. This isn't good for him. This isn't good for Israel and the government and Mossad, because they're like, we can't be questioned because we're doing shit that we don't want them to find out. So if they start questioning, we're in deep shit. We're in trouble. So we have to keep everyone away from noticing and stop them from asking questions. So we're gonna give Charlie money to get him to shut up, essentially, and to keep being pro-Israel, pro-Israel. Now, Charlie demanded more space. This is quoted from Charlie himself. Charlie demanded more space to criticize Israel, right? As you should, free speech. That's very important. He then began to slowly loathe Benjamin Netanyahu and view him as a bully. Again, these are quotes directly from the article, directly from sources, directly from people closest to Kirk himself. He considered him a bully and he demanded more space to criticize Israel. Like I said, Netanyahu wasn't having this. Charlie Kirk was then disgusted at what and how Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had full control over the Trump administration, right? Because he had strongly warned Trump last June against bombing Iran on Israel's behalf, recalling how Trump barked at him in response and angrily shut down the conversation. So Charlie was logically saying, because who wants to be in a war, right? War is terrible, it's disgusting, it's brutal, it's awful. And he understood this, as any normal person should. And he talked to the president, as he should, and he said, hey, this isn't really a good idea. I think we should do what's in our best interest as a country, as we should. This is our country. Israel, obviously we don't want anyone to be going into war, but we shouldn't affiliate ourselves. We shouldn't shove ourselves into this conflict when we really don't have to. And Trump wasn't having that. And Charlie, again, was starting to notice and ask more questions again, like, this is kind of weird. Why is everyone on Israel's side all the time when they're shutting me down from even asking questions? They won't let me criticize them. They're taking away my free speech. What's going on? Their First Amendment. What's happening, right? Very, very valid point to notice, okay? So you can start seeing how the ball is kind of rolling here. He's asking questions. Israel isn't having it. Even Trump himself is like, nope, can't have that. Now, on Wednesday, August 13th, 2025, at 2 p.m., this post was posted on X or Twitter, again, whatever you want to call it, by Harrison H. Smith. Here's the link directly to the post so you can go check it out. Again, so you know I'm not pulling shit out my ass, and this is direct proof. He says, quote, I'm not going to name names, but I was told by someone close to Charlie Kirk that Charlie thinks Israel will kill him if he turns against them. That's weird. Considering what we know already, that's weird. That's very oddly suspicious, okay? Now, on Monday, September 8th, closer to his assassination of 2025 this year, the initial interview, this was with Ben Shapiro, right? Here's the link to the YouTube video if you want to go check it out. This was, it was recorded on the 8th, allegedly, and then on the 9th, it was uploaded and published publicly to YouTube, okay? So Charlie Kirk interviews Ben Shapiro and begins to question the morality of Israel and their actions in the Gaza Strip in Palestine. Ben becomes visibly offended during Charlie's inquisition when asked if the American public can rely on the authenticity of the media's portrayal of Israel and their actions being completely justified. I have the timestamp right here if you want to go check that out. It was at this very moment that Ben knew Charlie had to go because he no longer supported Israel or their unethical practices. So you could see, again, you should go check out the clip. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about if you've heard of it or seen it too. But you can see right as Charlie starts saying something about, like, why, is this right? We should really be raising questions about this. We have freedom of speech. We should be allowed to talk to this. And you get a split screen of both of them and you immediately see Ben Shapiro go, he's pissed. You can tell he's pissed, right? You know when someone's pissed. You have to have only a singular brain cell to not be able to look at Ben Shapiro's face in that moment and say, yeah, he did not like what he just heard. Now, on Tuesday, September 9th, the day before Charlie Kirk's assassination, we're getting so close here, in 2025 again this year. This was allegedly around 8 p.m. from what I could find. There's no direct location for this meeting between Charlie and this rabbi, but they were meeting over Zoom. There's even, again, here's another article link to my sources, okay? So basically, Charlie Kirk spoke with Rabbi, I'm not even going to attempt saying that because what the fuck is that? So the meeting lasted about an hour or so. I'm just going to say Peach. Obviously, that's not how you say it. I'm just going to say Peach. You know what I'm talking about. Peach and Charlie first met in December of 2023. Another important detail there. The rabbi often spoke to Kirk before public appearances to advise him on how to defend Israel effectively. So you have this guy who is pro-Israel, Charlie Kirk, and he has to meet with a rabbi, a Jew from Israel, on how to defend Israel effectively. Okay, so basically he's taking orders from his, I don't know what you want to call his boss, his master, his whatever the fuck you want to call it. That's like weird. You have someone that's supposed to be out free speech and saying, yeah, we should be able to talk about whatever we want, question whatever we want, criticize whatever we want, which is true. That's, again, incredibly important. That's what makes America so great, as our First Amendment. Slowly, though, you can see these things begin to crumble, right? The West is really falling apart here, which is very sad to see, but that's the way it is, unfortunately. It's very odd that someone very pro-Israel, yet somehow at the same time pro-free speech, pro-First Amendment, has to get orders from someone from Israel on how to talk about Israel and defend them effectively. That's just weird to me. Like, I can't even explain. It's just weird. So now we're on the day of his assassination. I'm so sorry. This is the content during the event, okay? And this takes place in Utah Valley, at the Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. Okay. Now, the top center of the university stage where Charlie Kirk was sitting when he was assassinated eerily represents a menorah, which is Jewish. Let's take a look at the picture of a menorah, right? Boom. Go and look up pictures of the university on Twitter or even on Google, doesn't matter. You'll probably see them spew out conspiracy, anti-Semitic conspiracy, says this and that. You'll see what I'm talking about. It's very fucking weird, right? With including everything else we know that we're about to find out about Israel's possible involvement in this, you're gonna be like, why the fuck is Nick Fuentes not understanding that this is so clear? He's been so anti-Israel for 10 years, and now all of a sudden he flips the switch. He's obviously either afraid of being next after Charlie Kirk, like he's shitting his pants right now, so he's backing down a little bit, or maybe he did actually get the call and now he's a fucking sellout. I don't know. We'll have to find out. Now, here's the really, really, really interesting thing that really starts to put things into perspective here, okay? On Wednesday, September 10th of 2025, an formerly Twitter post, here's the link so you can go check it out, from Benjamin Netanyahu himself, the Israeli Prime Minister. Guess what? He posted at 3:02 p.m. It'll show up a different time depending on what your time zone is in, but the research I'm seeing, it was 3:02 p.m., which is whatever, right? In Eastern time, okay? He posted at 3:02 p.m. Charlie Kirk was shot at 3:20 p.m. This is not from me pulling shit out of my ass. I found this from source. Like I said, go do your own research. Don't be a dumbass. Just look this up and you will find what I'm talking about. He posted 18 minutes before Kirk was even shot. You know what he said? Praying for Charlie Kirk. That's bizarre. You're praying for him before you even allegedly knew anything was wrong or was happening. This was basically like his typical average everyday thing almost, where he was always going to college campuses, not literally every day, but you know what I mean? Like, this was just the normal for him. And all of a sudden you're praying for him just right before he gets shot? Okay, yeah, definitely doesn't raise bells in my head. Now here's about the gunshot, okay? This is gonna be a little bit graphic. If you don't want to hear about this, you can click off, feel free to, but we have to talk about this. Charlie Kirk was shot once in the neck, more specifically his carotid artery. That's why if you've seen the video, I won't go into too much graphic detail, but you know what happens when you get hit in the carotid artery, okay? Ultimately causing fatal amounts of blood loss. Here's a video to it if you want to see it, so you know what I'm talking about. But if you have a weak stomach, just don't watch it. It's not worth it, trust me. I couldn't sleep for nights in a row after seeing the video. And I've seen some fucked up shit. I've been on the deep and dark web. I've seen some disgusting, nasty shit. So, yeah, again, even if you were like, I can handle it, I just wouldn't. Okay. Charlie Kirk was shot in the neck, which is oddly consistent with the IDF's method to kill. and is also suspiciously similar to the JFK assassination. Here's a link to me doing some research on the IDF's method to kill. Essentially, the IDF stands for the Israeli Defense Forces. More weird connections to Israel here. The initial gunshot sound, which resembles the same sound as a blank shot, right? You know, a blank round is where it's not actually a bullet, but it's like just supposed to be a sound. And yeah, you probably know if you are watching this video. Noticeably came from somewhere in the distance, right? A rooftop. So you can hear the gunshot like cracking in the distance first. And then like a split second later, you hear the real gunshot. Like there's two separate ones, but they're so close together, it's almost hard to, like if you could picture a waveform, they're like so close together, you could almost barely tell the difference, right? The real and fatal gunshot caused too much panic in too short amount of a time for it to have been 200 meters away, right? You have to take into consideration the speed of sound. If you hear a gunshot from 200 meters away, I think that's what it was, 200 meters, or just a far enough distance in general, you're not going to hear the crack of the fucking gunshot ringing out for maybe, a couple seconds or something, and the bullet still has to travel. But because people reacted so quickly, the crowd around Charlie reacted so quickly before he even actually, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's put these, you'll see in just a moment that these pieces are going to start slowly being put together, and you're going to make sense of the big picture here in the puzzle, and you're going to be like, what the fuck? Okay, now, it has become evident that Charlie Kirk was killed in a close range, okay, but the other weird thing is that there was no exit wound after being shot by a high-powered bolt-action rifle. What kind of bullshit is that? You're going to get shot by, like, a rifle 200 meters away, accuracy right here, one shot, one kill, right? And there's no exit wound. That's fucking bullshit. Because, as stated by the FBI, as their official narrative and story, the alleged bullet, from what I could find, correct me if I'm wrong here, but from what I could find, the alleged bullet that he was shot by was a 30-06 Springfield, which is one of these fucking things. So you're gonna tell me one of these hits you, one of these giant ass motherfuckers hit you, and you somehow manage to, they claim that it hit his bones and it just got stuck there. That thing could most definitely just crack through your fucking bone, okay? Shut the fuck up. The alleged gun that this came from was a World War I era Mauser, I don't know, Model 98, with no serial number. Untraceable. Whoa, interesting. You want to know what one of those look like? Like one of these. Makes sense. Okay. Now, here's the thing. The first alleged shooter was Michael Mallison or George Zinn. People were at first thinking it was Michael Mallison, this guy named Michael Mallison, but he looks really simple. It was George Zinn, but they look similar to each other. Let me just explain. George Zinn was the actual old guy that we all thought was the very first alleged shooter. He was the one referenced in the movie as the blonde guy distracting the cops, okay? That's who George Zinn was. At first, they said he was Michael Mallison to confuse people. Just as an extra name to confuse people in the media, so they didn't know, was it Michael Mallison, was it George Zinn, and then was it Tyler Robinson? So you have all these names and all these different things. Was it a guy on a rooftop? Was it a guy up close? Was it a guy here, there? Like, you know, it's just to cause confusion. Now, he's also from Toronto, Canada, and he's 77 years old. Now, George Zinn, again, another Google link there on George Zinn. What's interesting about George Zinn here, it's very suspicious. He was one of the first 9/11 witnesses to claim that it was an Al-Qaeda terrorist attack, which was obviously used as Israeli and Zionist propaganda. If you watched my previous video a couple weeks ago, doing a full breakdown of the 9/11 attacks and why and how exactly I know they were performed by Israeli intelligence and Mossad. And again, just like referenced before, this guy was not only the first eyewitness to 9/11 to say it was Al-Qaeda, it was the Muslims, it was the Islamic terrorists, but now he was also the first guy to distract and disrupt the police for the real shooter to get away. On the Charlie Kirk assassination, when he was questioning Israel, I don't buy that it was some crazy fucking liberal. That's so bullshit. That's so bullshit. The bodyguards, which were using military coded signals, right? The first guy had a white shirt and a white hat on. He touches his hat, which in the military code signals means sniper, okay? The black shirt and black sunglasses guy, he touches his bicep and like looks like he's pulling up his sleeve, which translates to suspect and commander. The guy in the blue sweatshirt has his arms crossed. He's possibly concealing a small handgun like this. He's possibly concealing a small handgun under his arm. You can kind of see here he's clearly like he's holding something. It's weird. Just look at these links and you'll understand what I'm talking about. Here's what's weird. The potential gun barrel that we see is positioned perfectly to align directly with that little laser or black dot on Charlie Kirk's shirt. I'm pretty sure it was like a mic, but it was lined up basically right to him. It was lined up right to Charlie Kirk. It was like this. It's getting weirder. It's getting weirder. And like I mentioned, all the bodyguards are insinuated and hinted to be Israeli by Charlie Kirk himself. He says here, if you want security, the Israelis know what they're doing. And he said this from an episode of Real Time with Bill Maher, I assume, in May of 2025. Here's a Google link to the Real Time with Bill Maher show if you want to go check that out. You have to subscribe, I think, to like HBO or something like that to go see it. So I'm not going to do that shit. If you guys want to go check it out, just go figure it out. But that's, again, from what I've seen, sources, that's what I found. Now, here is the perfect suspect and fall guy for the FBI, okay? Tyler James Robinson. He was 22 years old. He was born on April 16th of 2003. This is the guy we all know, whose face we all have seen recently, and who allegedly killed Charlie Kirk. Here's some interesting facts about him. He looks nearly identical and perfectly resembles John F. Kennedy's alleged assassin, who is Lee Harvey Oswald. Here's the link to the images that we can compare briefly here, right? Here's Tyler Robinson. We know Tyler Robinson. Lee Harvey Oswald, right here. Look at them side by side. That's fucking weird. That's fucking bizarre. Now, what's odd is they look nearly the same age almost, right? So you'd almost think there's no way that it's the same person because, maybe some of their ears and different things are different about them, like different facial features. So it's clearly not the same person, but it is odd that they definitely look very similar. And both involved, I've also broken down before, JFK was clearly killed by Israeli Mossad, obviously. So more connections and ties here between Israel from the guy that looks the same from another assassination to the next. It's so fucking weird. You tie all these things together and you're like, okay, Israel, 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 Israel. It just never ends with these guys. Now, he was caught on camera walking through the stairwell without a gun. Yet he was allegedly the shooter on a rooftop, which doesn't, okay, so if he was the shooter on the rooftop, how did he get a gun on the rooftop? Which is the official narrative, right? That's what they say. We caught him on camera, but then you look and see he wasn't carrying a gun. Okay, so then maybe it was planted there before he got there. Okay, so it was an inside job. So then who let him up there? Who put the gun there for him? Did he do it before? How did he get up there on a college campus? Did he attend the school? Did somehow someone else know him and they let him through? Was there no security at the college campus? Like, we have to be asking these logical questions because their narrative just falls apart with just a couple simple questions. It doesn't make any fucking sense. It's clearly a setup. It was clearly an inside job. The main point is Charlie Kirk's own bodyguards killed him because they're Israeli and they were hired to do it, probably paid to do it by Benjamin Netanyahu himself or the Mossad or Israeli government in general, right? You get what I'm coming from, okay? He was also caught on video, or allegedly caught on video, jumping off the roof without his rifle that he allegedly shot Kirk with, okay? And the property, okay, so then the narrative is that somehow he managed to be the shooter, yet he got up there without a gun, and then on the roof he has a gun, shot Charlie Kirk, and somehow there's video footage of when he jumps off the roof or like comes down, Yeah, he's jumping off the roof. He then all of a sudden doesn't have a rifle. Did he leave it there? No, his rifle was allegedly found in in like the woods or like another property. What was it, like a couple 100 feet away, or I don't, or like miles away or something? Like it's like some unrealistic fucking distance that makes no fucking sense. And it's like, it just doesn't make any sense. I'm not. What am I not understanding here? What am I missing? Again, if you guys want to go to this document, comment, leave notes on things I'm missing, whatever. But the official narrative there's so many holes and gaps in it. I don't understand how anyone could possibly make sense of this at all without having questions whatsoever. Okay. And what's interesting though is that the property that Tyler's alleged rifle was found is owned by a company that has shared stock in Palantir. Palantir CEO Alexander Karp is Jewish. Just Google it. I Googled it myself. It came up. He identifies himself as Jewish. And there's also, what was also very interesting and weird here is that there's a photograph of Tyler, right, that displays him in his room with an image of a map of Valhalla on his computer. And then later the FBI director, Kash Patel, is speaking like to Charlie Kirk and tells him, I will see you in Valhalla. What the fuck? Just like I mentioned here. What the fuck? Charlie Kirk's wife. Some of you are gonna hate me for this. Some of you are gonna be mad at me for this. Some of you are gonna be like, oh, that makes more sense now. But just hear me out. Just listen on this. We're gonna dig into Charlie Kirk's wife a little bit because if you haven't been able to tell already, she's very weird. The fact that she, not even 48 hours later after her husband was murdered and killed in front of her and her daughter, she decides to ask someone else to record a video of her crying over her dead husband's open casket. And then she wears these rings. I'll get more into this later, but I'm just giving a brief overview. She wears these Masonic, like Freemason rings. Remember I talked earlier about the Masonic and Freemason imagery and Illuminati occult imagery in like the film earlier? See how it, like, everything's coming together? Do you see how the pieces are tying? Who's involved in this? It's fucked. It's so fucked up. Okay, so clearly she was involved. She said she killed her husband. Okay. Now look, let's first, to understand this better, let's first dive into her father, who was Carl Kenneth Francevy. He was the founder and chairman of Raytheon's Israeli division, which included building the Iron Dome. More research links right here if you want to check that out, but look at more ties to Israel. Who's surprised? Erica Kirk's mother, Lori Francevy, was the founder and chairman of multiple tech firms, AZ Tech, G Tech, and E3 Tech, all specializing in computer and network security with government contracts and direct ties into the Department of Homeland Security with the U.S. So both are very, 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 very high-profile individuals. Weird. Now, Erica Kirk herself won Miss Arizona in 2012. Not that weird, she's a model. Okay, whatever. Look, this was a beauty pageant owned by Donald Trump. Remember the film earlier? Charlie Kirk was close to Donald Trump, and remember the ties to Trump earlier with the film? Now his wife has ties to Trump before what, they even met? What the fuck? She started multiple nonprofit organizations, one of which being Romanian Angels, which was an orphanage that was accused of child and organ trafficking to Israel and other undisclosed islands. Another tie to Israel. A kumbaya. Like, I don't even know what to say. What the fuck? And like I mentioned, Erica Kirk filmed and took a video of herself crying next to Charlie Kirk's open casket. She wears Masonic rings, and then Erica Kirk stands. Oh yeah, then there's another picture where she stands next to Donald Trump and holds up the Masonic hand signs like this. And then you can see she still has the same dumbass rings. She has Masonic necklace and chains on. Man, it's just, look, I'm gonna just tell you this. The conclusion and after the event is just this. It was Israeli Mossad, Israel was involved, Mossad was involved, Israeli intelligence was involved, Benjamin Netanyahu was involved, Erica Kirk was involved, probably her parents, Donald Trump was clearly involved. So many, basically, I mean, even we go back to the beginning with the movie. All these people, basically just so happened to predict his death? So what? Maybe they're involved too? I don't know. I don't know. This is just so fucking bizarre. Like, I don't even know what to say. But there's nothing else I really can say besides this. Here's a disclaimer about the event, okay? After everything we may or may not know for sure, there is no guarantee that anything we see is ever real. The best and only thing we really can do as truth seekers is to take absolutely everything with a grain of salt, use common sense, logic, ask questions, be skeptical, trust no one but yourself, and ultimately pray to God and ask Him to guide us to the truth. With that being said, regardless of whether Charlie Kirk is truthfully deceased or not, the event and its aftermath was a tragedy and affected millions of people globally, not just Americans. We must not underestimate the enemy and know, in full truth, we only have one common enemy, and it is not each other. It is Satan himself, because he wants division. This is a spiritual war, and it's good versus evil. There's no right versus left, red versus blue, Republican versus Democrat, conservative versus liberal, straight versus gay, cisgender versus transgender, white versus black, etc. The enemy is only afraid of one thing, and that is unity. Politics is a distraction. If you truly want to fight back, all you have to do is see past the politics, race, sex, religion, ideology, and begin to see people for people just the way God intended us to. May God bless your heart and guide you to the truth. Amen.